I'm going to tell you a story that starts on 2018 in Sydney, Australia. I had just arrived for the very first time in my life. I grabbed my 2 suitcases, and I got into a taxi that would drive me into the city. I remember driving over Harbour Bridge. This is the bridge that drives into Sydney, and suddenly I saw it, the Opera House. I was finally here, and I was going to make it. Every year, 10,000 Latin Americans arrive to Australia on a working holiday visa. It's a visa designed for immigrants to take on labor jobs, such as construction working, gardening, or hospitality. But that wasn't going to be my story. I had a bag full of blue shirts and shiny shoes, ready to land my next big job in the tech industry. Little did I know that I wouldn't be wearing one of those shirts in years. I started my job search, sending resumes everywhere, moving on LinkedIn, and nothing. Nothing. Not even a light of hope. And so, I made a phone call. Hola, Enrique, ¿qué tal, compadre? This is one of the Latinos. Yeah, man, listen, do you still got any of those jobs that you mentioned? If I can do what? Yeah, I can do that. House cleaning. Dishwashing. And construction working. Those were my top tech jobs in that first year in Australia. So, I got to it. I wasn't very happy at first. Definitely not what I had planned. And also, I didn't want people back home to know about this. So I actually spent a full 6 months without posting anything on social media. They might have thought I was dead. But then, it isn't like I cleaned 1 or 2 toilets. I must have cleaned 100 of them, if not more. And when you're there, you at someone else's house, maybe a beach mansion, you do the toilets, and then you do the kitchen, and then the windows, you sweep the floor, and in the end, I got paid, cash, money in the pocket. And there was some dignity to it. I felt good. I was surviving on my own. And I think it took being in this new situation that it made me become aware of this word, entitlement. It's a funny word because it actually doesn't have a direct translation to Spanish, at least not in the way I'm speaking about, which is the belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. I had arrived to Australia entitled. I had taken for granted that some things would work out just like they did back home. But then I noticed that some things, such as the name of a nice school name or a network of contacts, those hadn't come with Australia. And you start noticing this, how lucky you were of the reality in which you were born. Working in cleaning also makes you notice small details of your day-to-day character. For example, when you're cleaning someone's home, if the homeowner just walks past you, or if he actually stops, looks you in the eye and says, hi. Speaking about entitlement, can someone be entitled not to say hello just because you're cleaning their home? Anyway, a whole year went by, and I had to face a decision, as my visa was about to end. I could go back home, I had a nice set of stories, a couple good lessons, and I could go back to normality, or I could try and get a second year in Australia. I felt I had unfinished business. I had been able to survive, and I felt proud of it. But I wanted to see if I could grow. And so, to get a second year in Australia, I had to go and do 4 months of farm work. Cows. From one moment to another, this was my office. Actually, let me make it look a little bit more visual. That was my office. You see that brown thing on the bottom on the right? That's not dirt. This was my office, 6 days a week, 9-hour shifts, 5 a.m. in the morning, milking cows. I quickly learned that there is very interesting hierarchy within the farm. You've got the boss, then the farmers, then the bulls, and then the cows. And then there was me. From the very first moment, the cows made sure I knew my place, as they would choose when to piss or to kick or to shit on me. My boss would go, "All right, girls, move." And they would move. I went, "All right, girls, move." Something I learned from cows is that there are some things in life that you just can't speed up. You can shout as loud as you can, but cows, they've got their pace. And so, I had to follow. And this gave me a lot of time to think. Screw meditation retreats. If you want to get thinking, go milk cows for 4 months. But anyway, this thinking always brought me to the same question. Why am I doing this? You know what? Nobody's forcing me to be here. So why have I put myself in this situation? What do I want to get on that second year that is going to make this worthy? And there was this little voice in the back of my head that always brought me back to the same thing. Teaching. Teaching. I love teaching. I always have. I've done a lot of private tutoring along the years with children and with teenagers. I even had a small business, which was an after-school academy, but I eventually let it go at some point. It was as if this North Star had suddenly appeared, showing me that I wanted to work on something related to education. Having found this gave some meaning to the shit. Now the shit was worth it. And I started liking the shit. And I embraced my days on the farm. The cows, they started liking me. I swear to you, at some point they understood Spanish. There I am, embracing the shit. But, well, I had still about 3 months ahead. And that final day eventually arrived. I remember milking the last set of cows and letting them go, turning off the machines in the dairy station, closing the gate, and savoring the moment. Put my hands up, and I felt happy. I felt powerful. I felt proud. There, completely covered in cow shit, on my own, with no one around to clap. It is, till this moment, one of the proudest achievements of my life. I went back to Sydney, where it had all started. Same resume, but I felt a different person. There was something in the way I spoke about what I wanted that made it more real. And as if the stars had aligned, within a few weeks, I was able to join this amazing company doing things in education and technology, with children and with teenagers. I was thriving. I found a place where I could use my business background on something I was passionate about, working with children and teenagers. I even got to use a blue shirt. But what I liked best about this chapter was the place it gave me within the community where I was living. I would run into the children on the streets or parents on the grocery stores. There was this sense of belonging to something that made it so worth. I spent a total 3 years in Australia, and then I went home. When I go back to Peru, I was like the Buddha, long hair, surfer. I had seen things. I had experienced life. I was the humblest person in the world. And so I took on my next big challenge, this time in another education company, but now as a manager of a team of 8. It was my turn to harvest on all of the work I had done in the past few years. And I told everyone about it. I put it on LinkedIn. This is my new job. And 2 months later, I was fired. Miguel, you're just not the manager that we were expecting. And it hurt. It really hurt. And I started falling into this narrative of failure. I had failed myself. I hadn't learned the lesson. I felt so stupid, and I was really hard on me. Never have I felt so out of my comfort zone as that set of months where I was 30, unemployed. I had to move back with my parents, and I just couldn't handle my thoughts. It was a waste of time. That was what I had come to believe. I have wasted 3 years. These stories, which I was so proud about, had become a matter of shame and regret. And it was in this darkness that I had to face my biggest challenge, which was to ask for help. It was as if this barrier went down, and I said, I can't do it on my own. So I reached out to family and to my close friends, and I said, I need help. I need help to get out of here. And I started noticing that I could be vulnerable, that I didn't have to be almighty or all of success stories. And I started to get better, slowly, with the help of therapy, too. And it was them that at some point encouraged me to study abroad. But I was so afraid, so afraid. How I am going to compete? What am I going to say? So I started this process of just picking up the pieces, whatever I had, and tried to put together a story, my story, the only one I had, and to learn to embrace it with its successes, with its failures, to laugh about it, to recognize the mistakes I did. And it was that story that brought me here. Today I can say that the shit, that the toilets, that the cows, that the failure, it was worth it. Stepping out of the comfort zone definitely doesn't go as planned. Otherwise, it wouldn't be stepping out of the comfort zone. But it gave me a North Star of what I wanted to do. It showed me a valuable lesson on entitlement. Well, that one took me twice. But most importantly, I learned that we need to embrace our stories with their successes and their failures, and to learn to be happy with them, because at the end of the day, that story is the only one that we have. Thank you.